I'm going to introduce you to Will to Give, and then I'm going to hand over to our guest charities. Will to Give, if you haven't heard of us before, is a cross-charity campaign with over 60 member charities. So our charities are from all different backgrounds. We have small Northern Ireland charities, we have large international charities, but what they all have in common is that they have supporters based here in Northern Ireland. And we, as an organisation, we shine a light on the importance of gifts and wills. Now, it's a difficult job, and it's a difficult job because to leave a gift in your will, you have to write your will. And to write your will, we have to talk about death and dying, which is always a difficult conversation to have. So we don't have the easiest of jobs as Will to Give, but we've been going now 10 years. And we've grown from an original 10 member charities to 60 now. So it's not something that we shy away from, and we're very proud of the work that we do on behalf of our member charities. So why it's difficult, especially in Northern Ireland, to talk about gifts and wills is because so few of us have actually pledged to leave a gift in our will. It sits at 8%, which is the middle figure there. And the reason why I highlight that first is because if you look at the figure to the left, it's 71%. And what that represents is 71% of people who donate to charity every single year in Northern Ireland. So that's huge. We have the highest level of in our life giving in Northern Ireland than across the rest of the UK. But when it comes to leaving a gift in our will, we actually have the lowest level of gifts in wills, which is really, really surprising given how generous we are in our lifetime. And a huge barrier to leaving a gift in our will is the fact that 75% of people don't have a valid will. So that is something that we need to talk about as an organisation, and that our member charities need to talk about as well, just to really highlight the importance of leaving, of having to write your will in order to leave a gift in your will. So I'm going to hand over first of all to Colleen from the USPCA, who's going to tell us a little bit about the work of the USPCA and why gifts and wills are so important to them. Very welcome, Colleen.
Thank you, Claire. So good morning, everyone. And as Claire mentioned, my name is Colleen and I work for the USPCA. Work with the charity now as a development manager for just over 8 years, and have been in the same role for them 8 years. So I'm very proud to work for such a great charity and the work that they do. So I'm hopefully now and give you some indication of the work that we do. So USPCA was founded in 1836, and the mission that you see here on the screen has been unchanged in 185 years. So very proud to say that we're about the prevention of cruelty to animals, the relief of suffering in animals, and the advancement of animal welfare. And it has been protecting animals now for 185 years. The next screen, actually, we need to update because we said 184, but we're actually this year, 2021, we're actually 185 years. So it's a great milestone. And really, what I was going to say is we really started back all them years ago on the Victorian streets of Belfast with the working horses. And then one of the first jobs that the USPCA did was actually had water troughs for the working horses. And anybody that is in Custom House Square there in Belfast will see that one of our original troughs is still there as a sign of that. So that's just a wee bit about our history. I'll not go on too much about that now, but just want to give you really give you the fact that we are so old, and really, as I go on to my presentation, I'll say that it is really down to legacies. So we're 100% funded by voluntary donations. We depend on voluntary donations, and last year alone, over 50% of our income was legacies. And I suppose working in the charity for 8 years, and I've been involved now with Will to Give about 5 years, I was thinking this morning, and I have to say that really without gifts and wills, the charity just would just not exist. Really, I really believe that. And I just really feel that's why I feel that legacies matter so much, and that's why I dedicate my time to this fantastic network, and really want to continue the work on that we've been so lucky, but that's not to say that looking at the figures that Claire has just give, you know, that people don't here in Northern Ireland, unfortunately, a very small percentage of them do leave gifts and wills, and we want to change that to help the likes of our charities move on with the work that we do. So moving on to some of the services that we offer, the charitable services that we offer here at the USPCA. The first one is our animal hospital, and a very, very special facility for us. Back over 100 years ago, we had an animal hospital in Jordanstown, and it closed, and now we've opened a new one, which we opened about 12 years ago in Newry, and it's a fantastic facility, and I have a picture of it later I'll be able to show you. Then we go on to our wildlife rescue, and the wildlife rescue is a very, very important service that we offer in Northern Ireland. We have rescue officers that go throughout the province rescuing injured wildlife. This is operating 7 days a week. Only yesterday we had calls about injured swans. A day like yesterday, a beautiful day here in Northern Ireland, we have nothing calls about injured birds, injured hawks, you name it. We have every day is a completely different day, but thankfully we're able to offer that service here in Northern Ireland and be able to treat these animals that would otherwise remain untreated, really. Animal rehoming, another very special service that we offer here. We've seen so many cases over the last few years where animals have come into us that unfortunately their families have been unable to look after them in social situations, anything from a terminally ill patient until a family that has just been put out of their house. So these animals, you know, have suffered, you know, with no fault of their own, but they come into the USPCA, they get, I have to say, first-class treatment, looked after very, very well by our staff and volunteers, and then placed in a very suitable home that's home checked, etc. So very special service to our hearts. We can see these animals going out very happy, and we believe that we've done the right thing by that animal in the case. Another service we offer is food banks. So we provide pet food parcels throughout Northern Ireland. I think now more than ever, people realise the importance of these food banks, and sometimes maybe the animal in the household would be forgotten about, but thankfully we were able to step in, and with the help of our suppliers and the public, actually, it's been amazing. We're able to provide these pet food parcels, I think up to about 30 food banks in Northern Ireland at this time. Schools and community outreach visits, something this year now unfortunately haven't been able to do as much of given the restrictions. However, it's a very, very busy service. We normally go out to schools, speak to the children, and we believe that at that age, if they're they know that the prevention of cruelty to animals is important, and they live through their life with that. But we're just getting into the will to give this week. We're getting in now to the online side of this, and hopefully virtually we'll be able to offer this service to community groups, etc. in the near future. Animal cruelty investigations, we are, you know, very active in the animal cruelty investigations side of things. So organised crimes, things like puppy farming, stag hunting and badger baiting, some of the horrific situations that we do see unfortunately in the USPCA, but the USPCA is very, very busy in ensuring that we are going to put a stop to this cruel crime to our animals here. And then our animal welfare campaign. So we're constantly campaigning for better animal welfare, advancing our animal welfare here in Northern Ireland. After 185 years, we want to be out on top. Unfortunately, here with our government being stalled for some time, we've been lagging behind the rest of the UK, but thankfully in the last 6 months we've been involved with an all-party group, and we already are involved with 2 parties and private bills that are ongoing at the minute. So a very busy part of our work at the moment. So that's just giving you a snapshot of some of the work that we do as a charity, and I'd have to say that these services just would not exist without gifts and wills. And you know, really I would have to say that, as I said before, it equates to half of our income. We have donations, and we have some trading facilities, but some of the legacies and some of the gifts that we've been left is through the kindness of the animal lovers here in Northern Ireland, and that we're able to continue our work and working on it on the the front of it, on the front line of it, and then receiving these legacies on a weekly, monthly basis makes me realise that the love for animals and charities in Northern Ireland, because when I look, there's other charities named in these wills, and it really gives you such passion to continue the good work that these people have asked us to do. I'm just going to finish up with one slide that one of the things. So when I started in the USPCA, it's just a personal thing, really. I started to come to the USPCA to work as a development manager, and this hospital had just opened about, I think, 3 years at that point, just very early stages of the development of it. And I'll never forget seeing the plaque at the front door, and remember asking at the time my manager and saying, what does that mean, and he said to me, this facility was built on the fact of on a legacy, and it was a family that father had left it in from him, his mother, a father, a mother, and a child had left out a legacy, a very large legacy. You can imagine, and that family had such love for animals, and their wish was within their, they wanted to leave a gift, a lasting gift for animals, and this is the reason why this building is erected. And I always remember that, and when I started doing work with Will to Give, I always said that I just knew how important gifts are in wills, because this facility last year alone treated over 6,000 animals that wouldn't have been treated, and the facility we have is amazing, and the amount of animals' lives that we've saved has really been amazing. And I have to say, from me, from the bottom of my heart, I know I can see it firsthand, the benefit of this, and we're so lucky, and hopefully other charities are the same, going to continue the work excuse me, that these families have left. So thank you so much. I'm willing to take any questions. I hope that's give you a bit of an indication of the importance for the USPCA alone.
Thank you so much, Colleen. That was really interesting, and I hope it gave our audience a flavour of the work that you guys are doing in the USPCA. We'll hold any questions to the end, but I'm going to hand over now to Sarah from Cancer Research. Sarah, you'll hear the Northern Ireland accent, but she's in Scotland at the moment. So Sarah, you're very, very welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Are you hearing me okay from far off climes here in the Scottish borders? I'm absolutely delighted to hear all of these accents. I can't tell you how homesick I am right now. So if I blub, I apologise in advance. But I'm absolutely delighted to be representing Cancer Research UK this morning. I am part of our legacies team, have been for coming up on 7 years, and have been involved in legacy giving in the charitable sector for about 15 years now. It's a passion, incredibly close to my heart. It's a calling. And I'm very, very passionate about explaining the benefits of considering leaving a gift in your will to any charity. And today I'm going to be talking about why it's so important to Cancer Research UK and why it makes such a difference to our ways of working now more than ever, given the current circumstances that unfortunately we all find ourselves in. So a few stats for Northern Ireland. Currently, 26 people are diagnosed in Northern Ireland every day with cancer, which equates to just shy of 10,000 people per year that are given and receive a diagnosis. Even more starkly, 12 people every day are dying from cancer still in Northern Ireland, and that equates to nearly 4,500 deaths that are directly related to a cancer diagnosis. It is still the first and primary killer cause of death in Northern Ireland at present. The glimmer of hope for me is that actually around 4 in 10 cancers are actually preventable. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how Cancer Research UK tackles the fight against cancer. And one of those is prevention, which I personally feel is very, very important, especially when we can see and we have evidence that 4 in 10 cancers could be prevented. So moving on, what exactly are we doing about this right here, right now? So in the last year, we actually spent over £2 million on our research that's conducted in Belfast. And we have circles of expertise in Northern Ireland, in particular into several areas: bowel cancer, esophageal cancer, and personalised medicine or precision cancer treatments for cancers. We are blessed with world-renowned researchers at Cancer Research UK, and that's happening in Northern Ireland right now as well. And these help right with diagnosis right the way through to treatment, to transform the lives of people that are living with cancer. Here at Cancer Research UK, we believe that the best way to attack cancer is from all sides. And so we have four pillars, as we call them, of how we approach our fight against cancer. Prevention, you know, that old adage, prevention is the best cure, absolutely is something that we would concur with, that if we can find ways of beating that cancer before it even makes a start, then that's the best way to be able to treat it. To develop better ways to detect cancer at the earliest available opportunity so that we can get in there quickly. We know that the earlier that we catch cancer, the earlier stage that you're diagnosed with cancer, the better the outcome and the prognosis. To obviously design and develop and test new cancer treatments, to be constantly pushing the boundaries of our technology and our expertise to make sure that the treatments that are available to people are the very best for their treatment at that stage, at that time, and to improve the outcomes of all of those existing treatments so that it's the best fit for the individual. That's going back to that idea of personalized treatments, so that we actually tailor the treatments to the individual for their particular type of cancer at their particular stage. And the research that we fund covers that full spectrum of the cancer journey. And obviously, one of the main ways that we see that being supported is through gifts and wills, and it accounts for a huge amount, a huge proportion of that research and that development and growth that we see. So how is that happening in Northern Ireland right now? Well, there's several things, really exciting things that are happening in Northern Ireland right now. It was really lovely actually to read this. My role currently is actually supporting lay executors when they are administering wills and are supporting us by delivering that gift. So it's always lovely for me to come back to the research, because that's what we're all here to do, is to see that research develop and grow and innovate. So currently we're looking at investigating whether exercise has an effect on boosting and enhancing treatment for bowel cancer. So Dr. Vicky Coyle, who is leading this for us, is part of an international trial called Challenge, and it's specifically looking at whether physical exercise can help reduce the risk of secondary bowel cancer, of it coming back in an individual. And if it's proven to be effective, then we would see this hopefully develop within the GP's diagnosis and ongoing treatment support to see a promotion of exercise to reduce people's chances of their cancer returning. We're also looking at how to tackle bowel cancer. So one of the things about cancer is that the cells of the body, the cancer cells like to hijack the energy that the cells produce to basically make the cancer grow and develop. So in Belfast, Dr. Emma Kerr is studying this and seeing if there's a way that we can stop cancer cells hijacking that energy, especially in bowel cancer, because what happens is it means that the bowel cancer is more resistant to chemotherapy, and it makes it a less effective treatment. So what we're looking to do with this research is to see whether we can predict which patients might not respond as well to their chemotherapy as a result of that mechanism, and to be able to develop ways of alternative treatments for them to be able to tackle that and counteract that. We're also looking at new ways to prevent esophageal cancer and improve survival rates. Esophageal cancer is what we would call in Cancer Research UK a cancer of unmet need. It's one that we haven't seen those survival rates and those statistics have as much of an improvement as we would like for them to have had, compared to something like prostate cancer, for example, and testicular cancer, where we've seen a really great improvement in the last 10 to 20 years when it comes to diagnosis and treatment. And at Queen's University University in Belfast, Dr. Helen Coleman is studying Barrett's esophagus, which is a condition that often can lead to esophageal cancer. And in the past, when somebody was looking into Barrett's cells, if it was considered precancerous, it was treated with surgery, which obviously is incredibly invasive and is pretty extreme, really, for somebody who may or may not develop cancer, because it's obviously at that precancer stage. So we've now developed techniques where we are able to use an endoscopic procedure, which is less invasive, and obviously there's less of a recovery, it's less impactful, where they use a small camera to look inside the body instead. And we're trying to see how effective these measures are at then statistically on preventing that cancer actually developing over the course of time. And in that research, we're also looking at things like lifestyle factors, smoking and alcohol, which we know can have an effect on esophageal cancer as well, to see how that impacts on survival rates after treatment. And this could hopefully improve outcomes for people with this type of cancer and help stop it developing in the first place. So we're back to that prevention pillar that we're so keen to keep developing. So these again are statistics for Northern Ireland. So 571 supporters have pledged gifts, which is equating to £1.6 million in gifts and wills from Northern Ireland. That's a huge amount, obviously, and it has such an impact on all of that research and development that I've just mentioned to you. I mean, we couldn't do the work that we do. It's because of that known income coming into a charity that basically supports that long-term research and allows us to be able to carry out the research and the development over the courses of years to be able to get those effective treatments out to the bedside as fast as we can. And that's through that forward thinking of somebody electing to make that gift in their lifetime that we receive when they're not even in a position to see the benefits to it. So it's an amazing thing to do for a charity. To give a gift in your will is, to me, it's the ultimate gift that you can give to your charitable cause, because it means that future generations are going to be constantly improved and supported by your generosity. It's an amazing thing that you can do. And currently, about a third of our funding at Cancer Research UK is supported by gifts and wills, and that's actually on the increase. And I think, given the global pandemic that we're all living through at the moment, now more than ever, and I'm sure all the other charities that are involved today will attest that we are absolutely dependent on gifts and wills right now, through the generosity, selfless generosity of people who have passed away. They're keeping our charities afloat right now. They're so terribly important to the work that we do. That was a real flying trip through Cancer Research UK and why gifts and wills are so important to us. I'm going to have to pass on my apologies because I am going to have to leave the call, but my very capable colleague Paula is on the call. And if you do have any questions at the end of the session, please do ask Paula. She's way more informed than I am in what's happening. And by all means, our details are on the screen just now. Thank you so much to Will to Give for giving us this opportunity to tell you a little bit about our work, and to thank all of you, anybody who has intended to leave a gift in their will or those that are considering it. It really is one of the most important decisions you can ever make. So by all means, sit down with your loved ones and have that discussion. It's so important to all of your charities. It really is. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was great. And I'll let you go now. And as I say, we've got Paula still on the line, which is great. I'll introduce Paula towards the end. I'm going to flip over now to Johnny Smith from Action Mental Health. And Johnny's going to tell us a little bit more about the work of Action Mental Health in Northern Ireland.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for all joining us this morning. Thank you to our speakers. It's absolutely amazing to hear some of the work that's going on across Northern Ireland, and that's being made possible by gifts and wills. Really, really inspirational. I want to try and give you a wee bit of a background to Action Mental Health and the services we provide, and obviously just in terms of the difference that you guys could make by choosing to leave a gift in your will to our charity. I think a lot has been said about mental health in recent times. There's rarely a time whenever you can flip on the news at the moment with COVID and the pandemic and not hear commentary about the impact on mental health. by and large, that is very positive, and it helps us to raise awareness of the importance of mental health. But sometimes it can reinforce negative misconceptions, often inadvertently. Sometimes within the media and in other discussions, people just don't really kind of pick up on the difference between mental health and mental illness. I think this definition from the World Health Organization is actually really useful and something that we would kind of use quite a bit. A state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. So I think that kind of demonstrates just how much of a positive mental health actually is, just in the same way that physical health is. It's something that we all have, and it's something that we all need to look after. And I suppose from the perspective of Action Mental Health, it's something that we're involved in on both sides of the coin, I guess. So we work very much with younger people and right across the community in terms of actually trying to develop people's awareness of mental health and giving them those skills and tools in terms of how to look after their mental health. But we also work with a lot of people who unfortunately are referred to us through mental ill health, and we help them in their recovery path. So I suppose just in terms of some stats around mental health in Northern Ireland, as you can see on screen, 1 in 5 people, 1 in 5 adults in Northern Ireland will show signs of a mental illness at some stage in their life. Mental health problems here are higher than England, so 25% more prevalent. That there's many reasons for that, but it's predominantly down to the history of the Troubles and the trauma that most of our population has gone through. Mental health problems are the leading reason for people missing work through ill health. So one out of every 3 days lost is due to mental illness. Northern Ireland has significant higher rates of depression than the rest of the UK, and indeed we have the highest rates of prescribing for depression medication, antidepressants in the UK. Half of all mental health problems start before the age of 14. Now, while that might sound quite startling, there is also a really positive angle to that we know from research that a lot of those problems can actually be prevented through early intervention and by giving children and young people the skills that they need to develop resilience at an earlier age. And sadly, as you can see on screen, we have one of the highest rates of suicide within the UK and Ireland. And again, that comes back to a whole host of reasons, but again, related back to the trauma, the Troubles, and higher rates of mental illness and poorer economic outlook in Northern Ireland. COVID has obviously had a massive impact on our mental well-being, and we probably haven't really seen the full impact of that just as yet. Early research that we have seen is showing that 2 of the groups most affected are children and young people and people who are already living with a mental illness. Those are 2 of the groups that Action Mental Health work with right across Northern Ireland. And thankfully, we've been able to maintain our services throughout COVID and throughout the last year, and we've been able to provide support to those people who need us. Across the UK, more than half of adults, so 60% of people, and over 2/3 of young people have said that their mental health has got worse during lockdown. 1 in 4 children and young people in Northern Ireland have said that they feel unable to cope with life since COVID crisis began. And nearly half of 16 to 25-year-olds in Northern Ireland say that their mental health has got worse from the start of the pandemic. So those figures, I suppose, kind of paint a fairly stark picture of what we've seen in terms of the impact of COVID, and we know that the impact on our services is going to be down the line. We're going to see increasing demand for our services. So in terms of Action Mental Health and our services, we have a wide array of services right across Northern Ireland, and we provide support from people from really early in life to really late in life, right across the life cycle. Our services, I suppose, can be split into 2 main areas of work, and that would be recovery and resilience building. Our recovery services is really where the charity started back in 1960s. We kind of started with our New Horizons service down in Downpatrick, and we've grown from there. The New Horizons service very much kind of stays very true to its original ethos, and that's about trying to rebuild people's lives and give them the chance to recover from mental illness. And we do that through a range of programs, trying to rebuild through personal development and through retraining and reskilling. Ideally, we want to try and give people the chance to get back into full-time paid employment. And we believe in that sort of process of rebuilding them and through work to health. We do that through a range of methods and right across the country. We also have our counselling service, New Life Counselling. And again, that provides a range of counselling services for people of all ages, for children, young people, for families, for couples. We also have a service specifically for deaf and hard of hearing people. And also, as well as that, we provide counselling for people who have been impacted by suicide. The newer area of work then that we are involved in is our AMH Mansana program. And Mansana is actually Latin for in healthy body and healthy mind. And that's really the work that we're doing with children and young people right across Northern Ireland. So schools, colleges, community groups, really anywhere that we can reach out to children and young people and the adults that care for them. We provide a range of services for teachers, for parents, from youth workers, and trying to basically build the skills and the knowledge out there in the community that will allow us to kind of look after our children and help them develop the knowledge and skills to look after their mental health as they get older and face the challenges in life that they invariably will. We also have a service called AMH Everybody, you'll see on screen, which is one of our newest services, which is a specialist service for eating disorders. And again, it's one of the ones that we're seeing a huge increase in demand for as a result of the pandemic. Two of the things that can be particularly triggering for eating disorders are stress and isolation. And obviously, as you can imagine, the impact of the pandemic has been particularly bad for people who may be facing those issues. So why are gifts and wills important for Action Mental Health? As I've kind of touched on already, we are seeing ever increasing demand for our services as a result of COVID and the various impacts of the pandemic. This has probably been most marked in our counselling services and also the services that we're providing to children and young people, and the parents and teachers who are needing to try and have that support and expertise available to be able to support the children in their care. But we do expect that demand will expand across all our services as the true impact of the pandemic becomes clearer. It comes, I guess, at a time when mental health services in Northern Ireland were already massively overstretched and underfunded. Indeed, as a country, we only spend 6% of our overall health budget on mental health. And that is in comparison to England, who spend over 12% of their health budget. And as we saw earlier in the presentation, there's a much lower prevalence of mental health problems in England to start with. So invariably then that places a huge demand on the community and voluntary sector and organisations like Action Mental Health. The need for our services continues to grow. We are there to help meet those increasing needs and fill the gaps in service provision. We also know then that mental health charities haven't been traditionally seen as something that people would fundraise for. And I think that was probably down to misconceptions in the past that we were part of the health service, and indeed probably as well due to the huge stigma that existed around mental illness. I think probably the big changing fact for us was in 2017 when the Royals used their platform to highlight mental health charities through the London Marathon, and we saw that huge change in mindset start to happen. So thankfully we are now on a road, on a journey, very early in our journey for fundraising. And as such, gifts and wills are exceptionally important to us. They do give us that security to be able to plan for the future. We know that in terms of preventing serious mental illness, early intervention is key, and we can only do that with the support of the public. We know that through gifts and wills, we will be able to be there for people in the future with the services that can make a difference to their well-being. So I suppose together we really can change lives and save lives as well. I'm obviously going to be on the call for the rest of it, so if you have any questions, please do ask them afterwards, or feel free to email me. My email's on screen there.
Thank you very much, Johnny. That was great. Really interesting to hear about all the different elements of the Action Mental Health service offering, especially. So I'm now going to hand over to Jane, and Jane comes to us today from Rosie's Trust, who is one of our newest Will to Give members, who just joined in the last couple of weeks. So you're very, very welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Claire. Hello, everyone. As Claire said, yes, my name's Jane McStay, and I'm the Operations Manager for Rosie's Trust. Rosie's Trust is a very young charity, Northern Ireland based, and our main mission is keeping people and pets together. The difference with Rosie's Trust, or the uniqueness of it, is that we're a human charity as well as an animal charity. What our mission is to preserve and protect the special relationship between people and their companion pets. And we do that when the relationship is threatened due to terminal illness, older people living with a disability, or somebody who's been treated for cancer. So they're the three groups within our community that we support, and the aim is to keep the owner and the pet together. And how we do that? Well, firstly, we understand the bond that people have with their pet. And especially when you're being given a diagnosis, the stress and anxiety of wondering or worrying about what's actually going to happen to your animal. Colleen mentioned earlier with USPCA, they would see people coming in with maybe terminal illness that they have to hand over their pet. And at these times in your life, this is when you need your pet and that companionship the most. So we're very privileged and honored to be able to help people in those situations. How we do it? Well, we rely extremely heavily on volunteers. And to date, I say Rosie's Trust is young. We were just 6 there in January, and we are supported by our volunteers. And what we do is we offer daily visits to the beneficiary. That's the person we have. We have 2 beneficiaries. We have the person and we have the animal. So we would offer daily visits. If it's play, if it's taking the dog for a walk, we support cats and dogs. And we would do vet visits, we would do grooming visits. Basically, we help that person to offer the support and the kindness to their animal that they've been used to doing, but because of this illness or their circumstances, they can't. We also offer fostering, which is a really crucial part of our service. When our beneficiary has to go to hospital or has a hospice stay, they're reassured that their animal is taken in. We'll take in, our volunteers will take in their animals and care for them, which gives that peace of mind. So many of the beneficiaries that I would speak to, that's the biggest reassurance, that they know if they have to go to hospital, that there's a friend, there's someone there to look after their animal. Another part of our service that we offer, again, is with beneficiary wishes. After their death, we would offer to rehome their animal. Again, this is a really significant support for our beneficiaries. We have had time, I often say our animals aren't rescued because we know them. We know the beneficiary, we've built up a relationship with the beneficiary, and we promise that we will get the right home. We know the environment that the animal's coming from, so we also would rehome the animals to wonderful new homes. So how we really do about it, we have teams. Rosie's Trust operates 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because that's the support that the animals and the beneficiary needs. On average at the minute, we would be doing 80 visits per week. That was doubled last year when COVID arrived at the door. Like the rest of us, when lockdown came in, everyone was very unsure of what's happening, what's going to happen. How do we support with our service? So just overnight, Rosie's Trust, which I'm really proud of, we switched our daily visits to daily phone calls, while we as a charity started getting our procedures and risk assessments in place. We had to look for funding to get PPE kits for the volunteers. So because I always say it's a human and animal charity, the beneficiary, the visit from the volunteer, that contact is crucial for the beneficiary as well as for their animal. So we switched to phone contact and phone the beneficiary every day through lockdown until we got our visits back up and running and doing them safely. So we're back doing our visits, and we're picking up the animals in the garden rather than we're going into home because of the risk. Everybody has their PPE and their leads. and thank goodness everything's going well. I had mentioned our fostering, and fostering seems to be increasing as our beneficiaries get sicker. The need for the fostering increase. So last year we had 356 days that we offered our cats and dogs to foster. Ideally, we keep our cats in their environment at home, and we'll rank up our visits to the cats, spend more time, do the care for it in their homes. So at the minute, we'd have roughly 100 volunteers who are out on a weekly basis. We're supporting over 40 beneficiaries. To date, we have supported 148 beneficiaries and their pets. And what our beneficiaries, some of what their message is, what this service actually means to them. And one of them, thank you so much for your help with Max. You have no idea how much the knowledge that he was well looked after in your care meant at such a difficult time. We would offer fostering when it's really, really difficult. There would be people who are close to death, and we would be able to step in, help the family, help take their animal, look after them, and let that family have that space and that time. Rosie's Trust has been a lifeline for me and Flossie. I would never have been able to manage and would probably have had to give her away. And your whole team have been so supportive, kind, and more like a family to me and Scruffy. And that's the impact of the volunteers and the work, the work that we actually do. The beneficiaries depend extremely on so many levels. While we're caring for their animal and supporting them, there's a relationship and friendship that's being built with the beneficiaries that we support. So the gift will, this is new for Rosie's Trust. As I say, we're a young charity, and we rely heavily on kindness and donations. That's with COVID coming in, community fundraising, like all the rest of the charities, was just completely stopped. We've been looking at Will to Give for a while, and we're delighted. We're absolutely delighted to get signed up. I think it was mentioned with a couple of the other charities, the donations and the gifts from a will help us plan, will help us sustain the charity for a longer time. And that's the big thing with it, that we can sustain, we can offer our service. And it's crucial, the donation that would be given or the gift that would be given. And I think it says here, it would be a privilege to be considered, and know that their legacy and the gift will help us to continue keep people and pets together. So if anybody has any questions, as Claire said, you can, bring for them.
Thank you, Jane. That was lovely. It was really lovely to hear about Rosie's Trust.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, we've come to the end of our presentation from our four presenters now. I'm going to give you a wee bit of time to think about some questions, and I just want to reflect on a few bits that were said during the presentation, really, from our speakers. So Colleen touched on the fact that as part of Will to Give, we do get sight on wills that come through, and we have the privilege of reading somebody's will, which is really quite special to do. And I think what is highlighted for me is that, people don't just choose to leave one charity a gift in their will. It's often a number of different charities and a number of different causes that they choose to support with a gift in their will. So you've heard from 4 of our charities today. As I mentioned earlier, we have over 60. So you can visit our website, and we have a charities page there, and you can see all of our member charities. But I would just really encourage you to think about the charities that you support in your lifetime and ask yourself, do I have the ability to leave a gift in my will, as one last opportunity to support their work. Another thing that Sarah had highlighted was, that there's 571 people in Northern Ireland have pledged to leave to cancer research. That's huge. So even though, our figure seems quite small of 8%, there's still a lot of people have pledged to leave a gift in their will. And if we could just increase that ever so slightly, the impact that would have on our charities and our member charities would be absolutely huge. I know the 8% is small, but we have seen over the years an increase. So it's increased from 2% to 4%, and this year it's gone from 4 to 8. So, you know, that's really positive for us. That figure comes from the NICFA Giving survey that's done every year. So they ask that question for us. And I think I had one more, but I can't remember what it was that I was going to say. Oh, yes, it was. Sorry. Just as part of our Will to Give week of activities, you know, we have more events like this scheduled for the rest of the week. So we have 2 events which are specifically aimed at people with other things to consider when writing their will. So tomorrow we have one for people who are writing their will with somebody within their family with dementia. So that would be an interesting one to share with anybody you think might be interested. And on Thursday, we have one aimed at people who have somebody in their family with a learning difficulty, or if you care for somebody. So we'll have Michael Graham joining us for those 2 sessions. And he'll be talking about just the different intricacies involved in writing a will if you're in those situations. And Friday's event with Marie Curie is actually called Talk About, and that's about opening up those difficult conversations about talking about writing your will, death and dying, and what your wishes actually are. And that's something that came up in a podcast that I did quite recently with somebody who has written their will. So she's a mum of 2 children. She's put off writing her will for over 10 years, she told us on the podcast. But what she said was that it's given her a huge sense of relief to have actually finally got it done, and that in leaving a gift in her will, she just wanted it to be kind of her last act, the last thing that she had control over. So it's a really nice listen. It'll be shared on our Facebook, I think, tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And you can have a listen to that and hear about her experience of writing her will. So I'm going to stop talking now and have a wee look in the chat and see if there is any questions for you guys. Oh no, I've maybe talked too much. No real questions are coming through at the moment. Just thank you everyone, that was fantastic. Thank you from Susan as well, it was a great presentation. Sarah saying goodbye. So unless any of our member charities want to add anything else at this stage, I will just flick over to the last slide, which is really just a thank you. Thank you to everybody for joining us for, as I've said, our first session of Will to Give Week 2021, our first online session for our Will to Give Week. And thank you to our member charities again for coming along and speaking. It was great to hear from you all. Our information is there on screen. We're info@willtogive.org, and our website is www.willtogive.org. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn if you want to keep up to date with all of our latest information. So there's Karen, a comment from Karen, lots to think about, wish you all the very best. So that's lovely. Thank you, Karen. So thank you very much. We'll draw to a close now, just 5 minutes earlier than we planned. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Thank you.